My wife bought a $2 million house while I was in Afghanistan. I was making $45,000 a year. I need you to understand something before I tell you this story. When you're deployed, you think about home constantly. You think about your wife's smile, your daughter's laugh, the way your own bed feels. You don't think about bank statements, you don't think about real estate transactions. You trust that the person you married is holding everything together while you're trying not to get hit by an IED on some dusty road outside Kandahar. I trusted Sarah completely. We'd been married 8 years. We had a 6-year-old daughter named Emma. Sarah worked as an administrative assistant at a law firm, making maybe $35,000 a year. We lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Virginia, close enough to Fort Belvoir that my commute was easy when I wasn't overseas. The math was simple. We were comfortable but not wealthy. We had a small savings account, maybe $12,000 last I checked. We drove used cars. We clipped coupons. We were normal. Then I came home. The flight from Bagram to Germany to Baltimore took forever. 23 hours of trying to sleep in uncomfortable seats, of processing out of theater, of finally being done with my 3rd deployment. I was exhausted, relieved, ready to see my family. Sarah picked me up at the airport with Emma. My daughter ran to me screaming, "Daddy!" and I scooped her up, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo. Sarah hugged me tight, and for a moment, everything was perfect. Everything was exactly how I had imagined it would be. "I have a surprise for you," Sarah said as we loaded my duffel bags into the car. I noticed it then. The car. A new BMW X5, glossy black paint, leather interior, that new car smell. "Where'd this come from?" I asked, running my hand along the hood. "I'll explain everything," she said, smiling. "Just get in. You're gonna love this." Emma chattered the whole drive about school, about her friends, about the new house. New house? I looked at Sarah, confused, but she just kept smiling and driving. We didn't head toward our apartment. Instead, she took the highway west, toward Fairfax County. The neighborhoods got nicer, the houses got bigger. My confusion grew into something heavier, something that sat in my chest like a stone. She pulled into a driveway in front of a massive colonial house, white columns, brick facade, professionally landscaped yard, the kind of house I'd admired from the outside but never imagined living in. "Welcome home," Sarah said. I stood there in the driveway, my duffel bag at my feet, staring at this house that cost more than I'd make in 40 years. "Sarah," I said slowly, "what's going on? Come inside, I'll show you everything." The interior was even more impressive. Hardwood floors, granite countertops, a living room that could fit our entire apartment inside it. Emma ran upstairs yelling about her new bedroom. Sarah took my hand and led me through the house like a real estate agent showing off a property. 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths, there's a finished basement, a 2-car garage, even a small office for you. "Sarah," I stopped walking. "How did we buy this house?" "I've been investing. I got really good at it, made some smart choices with cryptocurrency, some tech stocks. The market's been incredible." I stared at her. My wife, who'd never shown interest in finance beyond balancing our checkbook, who'd asked me to handle our taxes because numbers stressed her out. "Investing?" I repeated. "I know it sounds crazy," she said quickly, "but I took a class online, started small, things just took off. I made enough for the down payment, and with your VA benefits, we qualified for the mortgage." The stone in my chest got heavier. How much was the down payment? $400,000. That was 9 years of my salary, before taxes. "I need to see the accounts," I said. Something flickered across her face, just for a second, then the smile returned. "Of course, after you settle in, you must be exhausted from the flight." I was exhausted, and I wanted to believe her. I wanted this to be real, to be some incredible stroke of luck that happened while I was gone. I wanted my wife to have somehow figured out the stock market and made us wealthy. But I'd spent 3 deployments learning to spot when something didn't add up, when the pattern was wrong, when the explanation was too convenient. I unpacked in our new bedroom. King-sized bed, expensive linens, a walk-in closet bigger than Emma's old bedroom. Through the window, I could see our backyard. There was a wooden playset that must have cost $3,000. Sarah made dinner that night. Steak, good wine. She talked about the neighborhood, about the schools, about how happy Emma was. I watched her move around the kitchen, this woman I'd been married to for 8 years, and realized I was looking for tells, like she was an insurgent at a checkpoint. What did I become? After Emma went to bed, I sat Sarah down in the living room. "I need to see the accounts," I said. She got her laptop, pulled up a brokerage account. The balance showed $680,000. I scrolled through the transaction history, buys and sells, cryptocurrencies I'd heard of, tech stocks, some international markets. "When did you start this?" I asked. "About a year ago, right after you deployed." "You turned $12,000 into over $1 million in 12 months? "Plus my salary," she said. "And I was careful. I didn't touch your pay. That kept going into our joint account like always." I looked at the trades. They were dated throughout the year. The amounts grew steadily. Nothing seemed obviously wrong, but something felt off. The timing was too perfect. The returns too consistent. "I want to talk to your financial advisor," I said. "I don't have one. I did it all myself." "The person who taught the class, then?" "It was online, pre-recorded videos." Every answer raised more questions. Every explanation left gaps. "I need some air," I said. I walked around the neighborhood. Big houses, nice cars. The kind of place where colonels and defense contractors lived. Not sergeants, not people like me. My phone buzzed. A text from Marcus, my buddy from the unit who'd gotten back 2 weeks before me. "Beer tomorrow? Need to talk." I texted back yes. That night I couldn't sleep. Sarah lay next to me, breathing deeply, peacefully. I stared at the ceiling of our $1 million bedroom and ran through scenarios. None of them made sense. None of them added up to a happy ending. The next afternoon, I met Marcus at a bar near base. He looked thinner than I remembered, tired. "You look like hell," I said. "Divorce," he said. "Jennifer filed while I was over there. Found out she'd been seeing someone else for 6 months. "I'm sorry, man." He drank his beer. "You know what the worst part was? I didn't see it coming. All those video calls, all those emails, and I had no idea. She was living a completely different life, and I was clueless." I thought about Sarah's smile, the new house, the convenient explanations. "Can I ask you something? If you suspected something was wrong, but you didn't have proof, would you investigate? Or would you trust?" Marcus looked me hard. "This about Sarah?" "Just a hypothetical." "There's no such thing as hypothetical when you ask it like that." He leaned forward. "You think something's wrong." I told him about the house, the money, the investment story. He listened without interrupting. "That's a lot of money to make in a year," he said when I finished. "Yeah, people get lucky." "Yeah, people also lie." He paused. "You want my advice? Trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. But be careful how you look into it. If you're wrong and she finds out you didn't trust her, that's hard to come back from." I went home. Sarah was cooking dinner. Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table. Everything looked perfect. Everything looked normal. But I couldn't shake it. That night, after Sarah fell asleep, I went to the office, opened her laptop. The brokerage account was still logged in from when she'd shown me the day before. I clicked through to the account details, found the routing numbers, cross-referenced them with the bank's website. Everything checked out. The account was real. But then I noticed something. The IP addresses for the trades. They were all from Virginia, all from the same location, our old apartment complex. Nothing unusual about that, except for 3 trades, 3 large purchases made in January. The IP addresses were different. I ran them through a geolocation service. 2 were from McLean, Virginia. 1 was from somewhere in Maryland. Before I tell you what I found in that envelope, if you're hooked on this story, hit that like button and subscribe. There are dozens more voices like mine here. And drop a comment with your country. I'm curious where all of you are listening from. McLean, Virginia. That's where the CIA headquarters is located. That's where a lot of defense contractors have offices. That's where people with security clearances work. I sat back in the chair. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe she'd been at a coffee shop. Maybe she'd used her phone's hotspot and the location was wrong. Or maybe something else was happening. The next day, I did something I'm not proud of. I called Sarah's work, asked to speak to her. The receptionist said Sarah hadn't worked there in 8 months. She took a leave of absence, extended leave for a family matter. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Sarah had lied. She wasn't working at the law firm. She'd been doing something else for 8 months. Something that required her to be in McLean. Something that made enough money to buy a $2 million house. I thought about confronting her, demanding answers. But I'd spent enough time in interrogations to know that people with something to hide are good at defending their lies. They prepare. They have stories ready.
That weekend, I told Sarah I wanted to go fishing with Marcus. Get out of the house for a day. She smiled and said that sounded great, that I deserved some relaxation after being deployed. Instead, I drove to McLean, found a parking spot near the office building where one of those trades had been made. I had the exact address from the IP geolocation. It was a nondescript building, the kind that could house anything from accountants to dentists to something else entirely. I waited. I don't know what I expected to see. Sarah walking out? Some obvious connection? Hours passed. Nothing happened. I felt ridiculous. I was surveilling an office building because of an IP address. This is what my marriage had become. I was about to leave when I saw him. A man in his 50s, well-dressed, walking out of the building. He looked familiar. It took me a second to place him. I'd seen his face in a briefing, back during my first deployment. He worked for Defense Intelligence, or he had back then. I couldn't remember his name, just his face, and the way he'd talked about threat assessment like it was chess. He got into a black sedan and drove away. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe this building housed 100 different offices and that man had nothing to do with Sarah. But the stone in my chest got heavier. I drove home. Sarah was playing with Emma in the backyard. They were laughing. My daughter was happy. My wife looked radiant in the afternoon sun. I thought about Marcus's wife, about how he'd had no idea, about how the person you trust most can hide the biggest secrets. That night, I made a decision. I would treat this like a mission. Gather intelligence, verify information, find the truth. I started small, checked our mail, found credit card statements for cards I didn't know existed, all in Sarah's name, all paid off every month. The charges were mostly normal, groceries, gas, kids' stuff. But there were also charges to restaurants in D.C., high-end places, charges to hotels, the Hay Adams, the Four Seasons. I photographed everything. I checked our joint bank account. My paychecks went in like always. Small amounts came out for utilities, for Emma's school stuff. But the big expenses, the mortgage, the car payments, the property taxes, those came from somewhere else. I needed to see where. The next week, Sarah said she had a doctor's appointment, would be gone for a few hours. Could I watch Emma? Of course, I said. After she left, I went through her dresser, her closet, looking for anything, bank statements, a second phone, notes, something. I found a locked file box in the back of the closet, small, metal, the kind you'd keep important documents in. I'm trained in small unit tactics. I'm trained in combat medicine. I'm trained in how to clear a building and how to call in air support. I'm not trained in lockpicking, but you can learn anything on YouTube. It took me 30 minutes and 2 broken bobby pins, but I got it open. Inside, a passport. Sarah's photo, but a different name. Jennifer Morrison. There were stamps from the past year. Jordan, Turkey, Germany. A folder with bank statements, an account in the Cayman Islands, balance $2.4 million, and a phone, not her regular phone, a second phone. I powered it on, no passcode. The message history showed texts with a contact saved as control. The messages were brief, coordinates, times, confirmations. The most recent one was from 3 days ago. Package delivered, moving to phase 3. My hands stopped shaking. Everything got very clear and very cold. My wife was a spy, or she was selling intelligence, or she was involved in something that required a fake passport and a Cayman Islands bank account and coded messages. I took pictures of everything with my phone, put it all back exactly as I'd found it, locked the box, placed it back in the closet. I went downstairs and played with Emma. We built a fort out of couch cushions. She laughed and told me about her friend Madison's birthday party. I smiled and nodded and felt like I was watching myself from outside my body. When Sarah came home, I kissed her, asked about her appointment. She said everything was fine, just a routine checkup. I wanted to grab her shoulders and shake her. I wanted to scream. I wanted answers. Instead, I said, "That's great, honey. I'm glad you're healthy." That night, I contacted someone I knew, a guy named Patterson who worked in Army CID, Criminal Investigation Division. We'd served together before he moved into investigative work. I trusted him. I sent him the photos, told him I needed information, but to keep it quiet. He called me 6 hours later. "Meet me tomorrow," he said. "Not at your house, not on base. There's a diner off Route 50. Be there at 0700. He hung up before I could ask questions. Now here's where everything changed. But real quick, if you're invested in how this ends, I genuinely appreciate a subscription. More soldier stories drop daily. Comment your country below. Always amazes me how far these reach. I barely slept. Sarah cuddled against me, her hand on my chest, breathing softly. The woman I'd married, the mother of my child, the stranger whose secrets I was uncovering.
The diner was nearly empty at 7 in the morning. Patterson was already there, in a back booth, 2 coffees on the table. He looked worried. "You need to tell me everything," he said. I did. The house, the money, the locked box, the passport, the phone. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he pulled out a tablet, showed me a photo. It was the man I'd seen outside the building in McLean. "Do you know who this is?" Patterson asked. "I saw him during a briefing years ago. Defense Intelligence, I think. His name is David Reeves. He doesn't work for DIA anymore. He went private, runs a security consulting firm that does contract work for several alphabet agencies." Patterson leaned forward. "He's also under investigation." "For what?" "Selling classified information. They haven't proved it yet, but there's enough smoke that people are watching him." He paused. "Did Sarah ever have access to classified material?" I thought about it. "No, she worked at a law firm, administrative stuff." "Did she ever ask about your work, about deployments, about unit movements?" The question hit me like a punch. I thought back through our video calls from Afghanistan, the questions she'd asked. "What routes are you taking? When do you move to the next FOB? Who's in charge of logistics?" I'd thought she was just interested, just being a supportive wife who wanted to understand what I was doing. "Yeah," I said quietly. "She asked questions." Patterson closed his eyes briefly. "The passport you found, Jennifer Morrison. That's a real identity, not a fake. We ran it. There's an actual Jennifer Morrison who's been dead for 6 years. Someone copied her identity." "How does that work?" "You steal the identity of someone deceased who was roughly the same age, apply for documents. If you're good, you can create a whole background, bank accounts, credit history, everything." "Why would Sarah need that?" "Because she's either running from something or she's working for someone who needs her to travel under a different name." He pulled up another document on the tablet. "The Cayman account. We can't access it directly, but we ran the account number. Transfers have been made to it from several offshore sources. The amounts and timing match up with known payments to intelligence assets." I felt sick. "You're telling me my wife is a traitor?" "I'm telling you that the evidence suggests she's involved in intelligence work of some kind. Whether she's selling information or working as an asset for someone, I don't know yet. But here's what I do know. If she's connected to David Reeves and he's selling classified information, then she could be part of a network that's gotten people hurt, that's gotten soldiers compromised." I thought about my last deployment, the ambush outside Kandahar that we'd barely survived, the IED that hit 2nd Platoon's convoy. We'd assumed it was bad luck, bad intelligence. What if it wasn't? "What do I do?" I asked. "You have 2 choices. 1, you confront her, tell her you know, But if you do that and she's guilty, she'll run. We'll lose her and any chance of rolling up the network. 2. You help us build a case. You gather more evidence. You wear a wire. You help us catch them all. I have a daughter, I said. I know. If Sarah goes to prison, your daughter loses her mother. I know. He pushed a card across the table. Take 24 hours. Think about it. Call me tomorrow. I drove home in a daze. Emma was eating breakfast. Sarah was packing her lunch for school. Morning, honey, Sarah said, kissing my cheek. How was your early morning? Met Patterson for coffee, catching up. That's nice. He's a good guy. She turned back to the lunch. I watched her hands move. Efficient, practiced. The same hands that had held mine at our wedding. The same hands that had held Emma when she was born. Had any of it been real? I spent the day with Emma. We went to the park. I pushed her on the swings. She talked about how much she loved our new house, about her new bedroom, and how happy Mommy seemed lately. Is Mommy happy? So happy. She was sad when you were gone, but now you're back, and we have the nice house, and everything's perfect. Perfect. That night, after Emma was asleep, Sarah poured wine. We sat on the back porch. The yard was beautiful in the evening light. I'm glad you're home, she said. Me too. I know the house is a lot to adjust to. I should have told you before you got back, but I wanted it to be a surprise. It was definitely a surprise. She leaned against me. Are you happy? I thought about Patterson's question, about the wire I could wear, about the case we could build, about my daughter losing her mother. I'm trying to be, I said. The next morning, I called Patterson. I need to know something first. Is there any scenario where Sarah is not guilty, where this all has another explanation?
He was quiet for a moment. There's always a possibility we're wrong, but the evidence... I need to talk to her, I said. I need to hear it from her. That's a bad idea. I don't care. I can't wear a wire on my wife. I can't lie to her every day and gather evidence. That's not who I am. Even if she's a traitor? Especially if she's a traitor, because then I need to hear her say it. I need to understand why. Patterson sighed. If you confront her, we lose our chance. Then you lose your chance. I'm not doing it your way. I hung up. That night, after Emma went to bed, I put the locked file box on the kitchen table. Sarah came downstairs and froze when she saw it. We need to talk, I said. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then she sat down across from me. How long have you known? She asked quietly. A week. Maybe longer if I'm honest. I just didn't want to believe it. She nodded slowly. Didn't deny it. Didn't try to explain it away. What do you want to know? She asked. Everything. I need to tell you what happened next, but first, if this story's got you, show some love with a like and subscribe. I read every comment, especially love seeing where you're all from around the world. Sarah stood up, walked to the window, stood there with her back to me for a long time. I'm not who you think I am, she said finally. No kidding. I mean, before we met, before we got married, before any of this. She turned around. My name is Sarah. That part's real, but I've been working for military intelligence since I was 22. I felt like the floor was tilting. What? I was recruited out of college. Language skills, computer skills. They needed someone who could blend in, who could build a cover life. She sat back down. Our meeting wasn't an accident. I was assigned to establish a relationship with someone in your unit, get close, build credibility. You're saying our marriage is fake? No. She reached for my hand, but I pulled back. It was supposed to be fake, but then I fell in love with you. Really fell in love. And Emma, her voice broke. Emma was never part of the plan. I don't understand. I was supposed to be an access agent, form relationships with military personnel, gather information about unit movements, deployments, personnel issues, feed it back to my handlers. It's not treason. I work for our side, but it's classified work, deep cover. For 8 years, you've been lying to me. For 8 years, I've been doing my job while trying to have a real life. She wiped her eyes.
After Emma was born, I tried to quit. I wanted out. I wanted to be a real wife, a real mother. They said no, said I was too valuable, said they'd make it worth my while financially. The money. The money is real. It's what they've been paying me. The house, the car, all of it. Payment for information that's kept soldiers safe, that stopped attacks, that saved lives. I wanted to believe her. I wanted it so badly. Prove it, I said. She pulled out her phone, the second phone from the box, made a call. He knows, she said to whoever answered, then handed me the phone. Sergeant Collins, my name is Director Sarah Chen. I'm with Defense Intelligence. Your wife has been working for us for 9 years. Everything she's told you in the last 5 minutes is true. How do I know you're real? She rattled off my service number, my security clearance level, the names of my commanding officers for the past decade. We need to meet. Tomorrow morning, I'll send a car. She hung up. I looked at Sarah. If this is real, why the fake passport? Sometimes I travel to places where an intelligence officer can't officially go. The passport is for cover. The Cayman account is where they deposit payment. It's all sanctioned. It's all legal. You asked me about deployments, about movements. I was gathering intelligence, but not to sell it, to protect you, to protect your unit. Every piece of information I gathered went to analysts who used it to plan safer routes, better operations. You could have told me. No, I couldn't. That's the whole point of deep cover. Not even spouses can know. If I'd told you, it would have compromised everything. I stood up, paced the kitchen. My wife was a spy, working for our side. Maybe, if she was telling the truth. What about David Reeves? She went very still. How do you know that name? I saw him outside an office building in McLean. He's under investigation for selling intelligence. He was my handler, until 6 months ago. Then they pulled him, told me I'd have a new contact. They wouldn't tell me why. Because he was selling secrets. I didn't know, I swear I didn't know. But if he was your handler and he was selling information, then anything you gave him could have been compromised. I know. When they told me they were moving me to a new handler, I asked questions. They wouldn't answer. That's when I started to suspect something was wrong. People got hurt because of bad intelligence. My unit almost got wiped out in an ambush. Her face went white. When? 5 months ago, outside Kandahar. That was during the transition, when they were moving me from Reeves to my new handler. There was a gap, a few weeks where I wasn't reporting anything because I didn't know who to trust. She grabbed my arm. If Reeves was selling what I'd given him, and there was an ambush, then my brothers got hit because of information you collected.
She started crying. Real tears, real grief. I didn't know. You have to believe me. I was trying to protect people. That's all I've ever tried to do. I wanted to comfort her. I wanted to walk away. I wanted to understand how my entire marriage had been built on lies and secrets. The meeting tomorrow, I said. I'm going. And if anything they tell me doesn't match what you just said, if there's even a hint that you're lying, I'm not lying. Not anymore. That night we slept in the same bed but didn't touch. I stared at the ceiling while she cried quietly next to me. In the morning, a car came. Black sedan, government plates. Sarah and I got in the back. We drove to a building in McLean, not the one I'd surveilled, a different one, taller, more security. Director Chen met us in a conference room. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with the bearing of someone who'd spent a career in intelligence work. "Sergeant Collins," she said, "thank you for coming. Did I have a choice?" "You always have a choice. You could have gone to the media. You could have gone to your chain of command. You could have done a lot of things that would have damaged national security and put your wife in prison." She sat down. "The fact that you're here suggests you want the truth. I want to know if my wife is a traitor or a hero." "Both," Chen said, "and neither. She's an intelligence officer doing an incredibly difficult job under deep cover. Is the work morally gray? Yes. Has it saved lives? Absolutely. Has it cost lives? Possibly." She pulled out a file, lead photos on the table, attack sites, casualty reports.
David Reeves was our officer for 7 years, ran multiple assets, including your wife. 6 months ago, we discovered he was selling information to the highest bidder, foreign governments, terrorist organizations, anyone with money. You let him do it? We didn't know until we caught him, and even then, we couldn't be sure how much damage he'd done or who else was compromised. She pointed to one of the photos. This ambush in Kandahar, the one your unit survived, that was intelligence that went through Reeves 3 weeks before he was pulled. I felt sick. Your wife had nothing to do with that ambush, Chen continued. She reported troop movements, yes, but that information was supposed to go to our analysts to help plan operations. Instead, Reeves sold it. The Taliban used it to set up an ambush. Sarah was crying again. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because we need your help. We're building a case against Reeves, but we need more evidence. We need to know who he sold to, how deep his network goes, what other information was compromised. Your wife can help us, but only if she stays operational, only if she continues her cover." You want her to keep lying to me. I want her to keep doing her job, which means yes, there will be things she can't tell you, places she has to go, questions she can't answer. Chen leaned forward. "But you'll know the truth now. You'll know she's working for us. You'll know the money is payment for classified work. You'll know that when she's gone, she's gathering intelligence that keeps soldiers like you safe. Except when it doesn't. Except when our officers betray us, which is why we need to catch them all." I looked at Sarah. She was watching me, waiting. "What happens if I say no? If I say I can't live like this?" "Then we pull her from the field. We end her cover. We move you and Emma into protective housing while we wrap up the investigation, and Sarah never works in intelligence again." Would she go to prison? No, she hasn't done anything illegal, but her career would be over. And if I say yes? Then you go home. You support your wife. You don't ask questions about where she goes or what she does. You trust that she's working to protect this country, even when you can't see proof. You carry this secret for the rest of your life. I thought about Emma, about the new house, about the life we'd built, fake as it was. I thought about my brothers who'd been hit in that ambush, about the soldiers who came home in boxes because someone sold intelligence. "How long?" I asked. "The investigation could take a year, maybe longer." A year of living with a wife whose real job I couldn't ask about. A year of pretending everything was normal while she gathered intelligence. A year of wondering if the next ambush, the next casualty, was because of something she reported. But also a year of catching the people who'd betrayed us. A year of making sure no more soldiers got hit because of sold intelligence. "I'll do it," I said, "but I have conditions." "I'm listening." "I want regular briefings, not about Sarah's specific operations, but about the investigation. I want to know we're making progress. I want to know this is leading somewhere." Chen nodded. "Done. And when this is over, when you catch everyone involved, Sarah is out, completely. No more field work, no more covers. She gets a desk job or she retires, but she's done lying to our daughter." "Agreed," Chen said. I looked at Sarah. "And you tell Emma the truth when she's old enough to understand, not the classified parts, but that Mommy worked for the government doing important things. That the money came from that. That it was all to keep people safe." "I promise," Sarah said. We went home. Life continued. Sarah went to work some days, came home others. Sometimes she was gone overnight. I didn't ask where. Emma was happy. She loved her new school, her new friends, her big bedroom. She had no idea her mother was running intelligence operations. Patterson called every 2 weeks with updates. They'd identified 3 other officers Reeves had recruited. They'd traced money to accounts in 6 countries. They were building a case that would bring down an entire network. It was working. It was costing me everything, but it was working. 6 months in, Sarah came home late one night. I was still awake, reading in bed. She looked exhausted, drained in a way I'd never seen before. "Bad day?" I asked. She nodded, sat on the edge of the bed. "I can't tell you about it." "I know. But I need you to know something." She turned to look at me. "I met with one of Reeves' contacts today.
A buyer. Someone who purchased intelligence that got people hurt. And I had to smile at him. I had to pretend I was willing to sell more. I had to become the thing I've spent my career fighting against. You're not him. How do you know? How do you know where the line is anymore? She was crying now. I've lied to you for 8 years. I've lied to our daughter. I've gathered information that people died because of, even if I didn't mean for that to happen. At what point does intention stop mattering? I pulled her close, held her while she shook. This woman who'd been trained to lie, to manipulate, to live multiple lives. This woman who was falling apart because she'd had to pretend to be a traitor. You're not him because it breaks you, I said. Because you come home and you fall apart, because you feel it. That's the line. She cried into my chest for a long time. Eventually, she fell asleep there. I held her and thought about all the things I couldn't say, couldn't ask, couldn't know. This was my life now. This was my marriage, built on secrets and lies and a truth I could never fully understand. But it was still my marriage. Patterson called the next morning. We're close, he said. Another month, maybe 2. We've got enough to bring charges. We just need to tie up a few loose ends. Sarah came home last night looking destroyed. The work takes a toll, especially when you're pretending to be something you're not. He paused. She's good at her job, one of the best. When this is over, she'll have stopped something that could have compromised operations for years. Will it be worth it? That's not for me to say, but I can tell you this. Because of her, we've identified intelligence leaks that have been active for 3 years. We've traced money to organizations that have targeted our troops. We've prevented future attacks. Whether that's worth what it's cost you personally, only you can answer that. I hung up and went downstairs. Emma was eating cereal. Sarah was making coffee, moving through the kitchen like everything was normal. Can we go to the park today? Madison's going to be there with her dad. Sure, kiddo, I said. We went to the park, pushed Emma on the swings, talked with Madison's father about football and weather and all the normal things neighbors talk about. Sarah smiled and laughed, and nobody would have guessed she'd spent yesterday in a meeting with a man who'd bought intelligence that got soldiers hurt. That night, after Emma was in bed, I asked Sarah something I'd been wondering for months. When did you stop pretending with me? She looked confused. What do you mean? When we first met, you said it was an assignment, that you were supposed to get close to someone in my unit. When did it stop being an assignment and start being real? She thought about it for a long time. Do you remember our 3rd date? We went to that terrible Italian restaurant in Arlington, the one with the waiter who kept dropping things? I smiled. Yeah. You told me about your dad, about how he'd passed away when you were in high school, about how you joined the army because you didn't know what else to do, about how you felt like you were just drifting. She took my hand, and I realized I was drifting too, playing a role, living a lie. And for the first time in years, I wanted something real. I wanted you to be real. I wanted us to be real. Was any of what you told me true? About your family, your past? Most of it. They gave me a cover story, but I modified it, used real details. My parents really did pass in a car accident. I really did grow up in Oregon. The lies were smaller than you think. The life I built with you was as real as I could make it while still doing my job. That's not the same as real. No, it's not. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't give you something completely true. I'm sorry I dragged you into this world. I'm sorry Emma has to grow up not really knowing what her mother does. But you'd do it again. She didn't answer right away. If I'd known what it would cost? I don't know. But I did the job I was trained to do, and I tried to protect the people I love while doing it. That's all anyone can do. We sat in silence for a while. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of Emma's white noise machine upstairs. When this is over, I said, we're going to counseling. Okay. And you're going to tell me everything you can tell me, every detail that isn't classified, every truth you can share. because I can't do another 8 years of not knowing who I'm married to. Okay. And if there's ever another assignment, another operation, another lie you have to tell Emma, you're saying no. You're choosing us. I already did, she said. That's what this whole thing is. I'm helping catch Reeves so I can get out, so I can be done, so I can be just a wife and a mother and nothing else. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that this was almost over, that we were close to the other side. 2 months later, Patterson called. We're moving tomorrow. Multiple arrests. Reeves and 4 others. We're shutting down the entire network. Is Sarah safe? She was never a target. She's a witness, not a suspect. When this goes down, her cover stays intact. Nobody knows she helped us. What happens next? Trials. Probably long ones. Sarah will have to testify, but it'll be closed proceedings, classified. Then she's out. She gets her desk job, just like we agreed. The next day, the news reported multiple arrests in a defense intelligence corruption case. Names I didn't recognize, faces I'd never seen. The media called it one of the largest intelligence breaches in recent history. Millions of dollars, compromised operations, American lives put at risk. Sarah and I watched the news together. She didn't say anything, but I felt her hand shaking in mine. Is it over? I asked. The arrests are over, but I have to testify. I have to tell them everything I know, everything I saw, every conversation I had with Reeves. It'll take months. But then you're done. Then I'm done. The trials lasted 8 months. Sarah testified 3 times. Each time she came home quiet and withdrawn. Each time it took her a little longer to come back to herself. Emma turned 7. We had a birthday party in the backyard. Friends from school came. Parents stood around drinking lemonade and talking about summer vacation plans. Normal life. Real life. But I watched Sarah force her smile. I watched her pretend everything was fine. I watched her live another lie, this time about being okay. Reeves was convicted, sentenced to 30 years. The other officers got similar sentences. The network was dismantled. The intelligence leaks were closed. And Sarah came home one day and said, "It's done. I'm out." We were in the kitchen. Emma was at school. It was just us. What happens now? I asked. I start my desk job next month, analyzing intelligence reports. No more field work, no more covers, just a regular job with regular hours. She paused. And we start counseling, like you said. We did. Every Tuesday evening, we sat in a therapist's office and talked about trust and lies and the complexity of loving someone you don't fully know. Dr. Martinez was a veteran herself. She'd been cleared to hear the classified parts of our story. She understood in ways most therapists couldn't. You're both grieving, Dr. Martinez told us during one session. Sarah is grieving the life she thought she'd have, the career she built, the version of herself that was good at secrets. And you're grieving the marriage you thought you had, the wife you thought you knew. Can we get past it? I asked. You can get through it, Dr. Martinez said. Past implies it'll be behind you, but this will always be part of your story. The question is whether you can build something real on top of it. We tried. We really tried. Sarah took her desk job. She came home every night at 6. She helped Emma with homework. She cooked dinner. She was present in a way she'd never been before. But something was missing. Some spark, some essential part of who she was had been left behind in that other life. Do you miss it? I asked her one night, 6 months after the trials ended. She was quiet for a long time. Yes. Is that terrible? I don't know. I miss feeling like I was making a difference, like my work mattered. At the desk job, I'm just processing reports other people gather. I'm removed from everything. Safe, comfortable, and I hate it. You wanted out. I wanted to stop lying to you. That's not the same as wanting to stop the work. She looked at me. I was good at it, really good, and it mattered. And now I'm just ordinary. I didn't know what to say to that. I'd spent months wishing she was ordinary, wishing she was just a wife and a mother with a normal job. And now that she was miserable. I don't know how to fix this, I admitted. Maybe you can't. We kept going to therapy. We kept trying. But the distance between us grew, not because we didn't love each other, but because we couldn't figure out how to love each other in this new reality.
Emma turned 8, then 9. She was happy, thriving. She had no idea her parents were slowly falling apart. Then, one evening when Emma was at a sleepover, Sarah sat me down. "I've been offered something," she said. "What kind of something?" "A training position, teaching new intelligence officers. It's not field work, but it's meaningful. It would use my skills. It would let me pass on what I learned." She took a breath. "But it would mean travel, a few weeks at a time, several times a year. More secrets. No, I could tell you where I'm going, what I'm doing, the locations are classified, but the work isn't. I'd be training officers on how to maintain cover, how to gather intelligence safely, how to navigate the moral complexity of the job. It's legitimate, it's important, and it's something I'm good at." I thought about the past year and a half, about how much Sarah had changed, how the light had gone out of her eyes, how she'd tried so hard to be satisfied with ordinary and failed. "Would it make you happy?" I asked. "I think so. Yes." "Then do it." "Just like that?" "Just like that. We've spent 2 years trying to make you into something you're not. Maybe it's time to accept who you are and figure out how to live with it." She started the training position 3 months later. The first time she left for a 2-week assignment, Emma cried. I held it together until Sarah's plane took off, then I sat in the airport parking lot and let myself feel everything I'd been holding back. This was my life now. A wife who traveled for weeks at a time doing classified work I couldn't fully understand. A daughter who missed her mother. A marriage held together by effort and compromise and the stubborn refusal to give up. But here's what I learned. Love isn't about knowing everything. It's not about perfect honesty or complete transparency. Sometimes love is about accepting that the person you love has parts of themselves they can't share, parts that belong to something bigger than your marriage. Sarah came home from that first training assignment different, lighter, more herself than she'd been in months. "How was it?" I asked. "Hard. Important. Right." She hugged me tight. "Thank you for letting me do this." "I'm not letting you, I'm accepting who you are." That might be the same thing. The years passed. Emma grew up with a mother who traveled for work sometimes and came home with stories she couldn't fully tell. She grew up with parents who went to therapy every week. She grew up in a house bought with money from classified intelligence work. And she grew up loved. That was the one thing that was never complicated or secret or unclear. When Emma turned 16, Sarah sat her down and told her a simplified version of the truth, that she'd worked for military intelligence, that she'd done important classified work, that the money and the house and the travel all came from serving her country in ways she couldn't explain. Emma took it better than I expected. "Did you lie about loving Dad?" Emma asked. "Never," Sarah said. "That was always real." "Did you lie about loving me?" "Never." "Then I don't care about the rest. Everyone's parents have secrets." If only it were that simple. I'm 52 now. Sarah's 49. Emma is in college studying international relations. She wants to work for the State Department. Some part of me wonders if that's Sarah's influence, if our daughter inherited a taste for serving something bigger than herself. Sarah still does the training work, still travels a few times a year, still comes home and can't tell me everything about where she's been or what she's taught. And I still struggle with it, some days more than others. Some days I'm fine with the secrets. Some days I resent every gap in the story. We're still in therapy, probably will be for the rest of our lives. Dr. Martinez says we're doing the work, says we're building something real even if it's not perfect. I don't know if she's right. I don't know if what we have qualifies as a good marriage. We love each other, we're committed to each other, but there's always distance, always something I can't know, always a part of Sarah that belongs to something bigger than our marriage.
Sometimes I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd turned her in that first week, if I'd called my chain of command and reported her, if I'd chosen exposure over trust. Emma wouldn't have grown up in that house, wouldn't have had the opportunities she had, wouldn't be who she is now. Sarah would have lost her career, possibly gone to prison, depending on what they could prove. And I would have lost my wife, not to death or divorce, but to my own inability to accept complexity.
So I guess I made the right choice, even if it cost me the simple marriage I thought I was going to have, even if it cost me peace of mind, even if it cost me the easy trust most couples have. Patterson retired last year, called me before he left the service. "I never thanked you properly," he said, "for helping build that case, for letting Sarah stay operational, for carrying that weight." "Did it matter?" I asked. "In the end, did catching Reeves and his network actually change anything?" 3 planned attacks were stopped because we closed those intelligence leaks. 37 soldiers came home who might not have otherwise. An entire network of corruption was dismantled. He paused. "So yeah, it mattered." "Good. Was it worth it? What it cost you?" That's the question, isn't it? The one I've asked myself 10,000 times. The one I still don't have a good answer for. 37 soldiers came home. 37 families stayed whole. That's real. That's measurable. That matters. But I lost something too. I lost the innocent belief that marriage could be simple. I lost the trust that comes from knowing everything about your partner. I lost the easy comfort of a life without secrets. And Emma lost even more. She lost her anonymity. She lost the career she'd built. She lost the version of herself that was uncomplicated. She had to testify against people she'd worked with. She had to relive every operation, every lie, every compromise. She had to let strangers pick apart her choices and question her loyalty. Emma lost a normal childhood, lost the simple story of who her parents were, lost the ability to invite friends over without wondering what they might see, what questions they might ask. We all paid a price. "I don't know," I told Patterson honestly. "Ask me again in 10 years. He laughed. "Fair enough." We hung up. I haven't talked to him since. Last week, Sarah and I went to dinner, just the two of us. Emma's at school, living her own life. The house is quieter now, just us rattling around in too much space bought with too much money from a job I'll never fully understand. "Do you regret it? Staying with me, working with the investigation, all of it?" I thought about the question. Really thought about it. "Some days," I said honestly. "Some days I wish I'd married someone simpler, someone whose job was just a job, someone who came home and told me about their day and I understood all of it." She nodded, didn't look hurt, just accepting. "But most days," I continued, "I'm glad I married someone complicated, someone who believed in something bigger than herself, someone who sacrificed for strangers because it was the right thing to do, even when it cost her, even when it cost us." That's a very diplomatic answer. I've had a lot of practice living in the gray area. She smiled, reached across the table and took my hand. "I know this hasn't been easy. I know I've asked you to carry weight you never signed up for. I know the life I gave you isn't the life you thought you were getting." "No," I agreed. "It's not." "Do you regret it never finding out? That you just believed the investment story and lived in ignorant happiness?" "Every day. And also never. Because at least now I know who I'm married to. At least now the lies are smaller. At least now we're trying to be real with each other, even when it's hard." We finished dinner, drove home. The house was dark and empty. We'd lived there for 12 years now. 12 years in a house bought with intelligence money. 12 years of secrets and compromises and complicated truths. We went upstairs, got ready for bed, lay next to each other in the darkness. "I love you," Sarah said, "in case I don't say it enough, in case you forget in the middle of all the complicated parts. I love you. I love you too. Even though you're not who I thought you were? You're exactly who I thought you were. I just didn't know all the details." She laughed softly, curled against me, fell asleep.
I lay awake longer thinking about everything that had happened, everything we'd survived, everything we'd lost, and everything we'd kept. Here's what I know. Some truths don't set you free. They just give you something new to carry. Some secrets protect you from weight you can't bear. And some marriages survive not because they're perfect, but because both people keep choosing each other even when it would be easier to walk away. I chose Sarah 12 years ago when I found that locked box. I chose her when I met with Director Chen. I chose her when I let her go back to work. I chose her through the trials and the testimony and the years of therapy. And I keep choosing her, every day. Even on the days when I resent the secrets, even on the days when I wish for something simpler. Because at the end of everything, love isn't about having all the answers. It's about staying even when you don't.
My name is Michael Collins. I'm a retired Army sergeant. My wife worked for military intelligence under deep cover for 9 years. She helped dismantle a network that sold classified information and saved lives I'll never know about. She's also the woman who makes coffee in the morning and leaves notes in my lunch and cries during sad movies and worries about our daughter and holds my hand when she can't sleep. She's both things, the spy and the wife, the hero and the liar, the woman who saved soldiers and the woman who cost me my peace of mind. And somehow, I've learned to love all of it, even the parts I don't understand, even the parts that hurt. That's what marriage is, I think. Loving someone not despite their complications, but because of them. Because they're real and flawed and trying their best in a world that doesn't always make sense. Sarah's still sleeping next to me. In a few hours, she'll wake up and we'll have breakfast. Maybe she'll tell me about her next training assignment. Maybe she won't. Maybe I'll ask questions I know she can't answer. Maybe I'll learn to stop asking. Either way, we'll keep going, keep trying, keep choosing each other. Because some stories don't have clean endings. Some marriages survive in the gray area. And some truths are worth the cost, even when the price is higher than you ever wanted to pay. I paid mine. Sarah paid hers. Emma paid hers. And 37 soldiers came home because of it. Was it worth it? Ask me again in 10 years.